Is Malaysia safe to visit? Is Malaysia a third world country? Is Malaysia developed or developing? Is Malaysia modern? Those are real searches, typed by real people in 2026, about a country that just climbed to 15th in the global competitiveness rankings. A country that is building the world's largest silicon carbide chip factory. A country where Microsoft, Google, and Nvidia are simultaneously constructing multi-billion-dollar AI infrastructure. A country where the OECD flew its Director of Country Studies to present a 133-page peer-level economic assessment. And people are still searching whether it is a third world country. The gap between what Malaysia actually is and what the world thinks it is has been growing for years. And in 2026 that gap has become so wide that it is no longer just an inconvenience for the people who live there or invest there or are planning to move there. It has become one of the most instructive examples in the modern global economy of what happens when a country's narrative freezes at a specific moment in time while the country itself keeps moving. This video is about that gap. About the specific things the world keeps getting wrong about Malaysia. About the data that contradicts each of them directly. And about why every year the world does not update its understanding, it gets more wrong not less. Welcome to Shifted Perspective. This channel covers what is actually happening before the mainstream catches up. Subscribe right now so you never miss what we uncover. Hit like if you have ever had to explain Malaysia to someone who had a completely wrong picture of it. Drop one word in the comments, outdated or current. Tell me how the world sees Malaysia where you are watching from. Let us get into it. Wrong thing number 1. Malaysia is a developing country. This is the one that frustrates economists and investment analysts who cover Southeast Asia more than almost any other mischaracterization. Because the developing country label is not just imprecise. It is operationally wrong in ways that matter. Malaysia climbed 8 spots from 23rd to 15th place in the 2026 IMD World Competitiveness Ranking. Its best ranking in recent years, with government efficiency jumping from 25th to 14th and business efficiency from 32nd to 16th. The IMD World Competitiveness Ranking covers 70 of the world's most significant economies. 15th out of 70 puts Malaysia ahead of France, ahead of Australia, ahead of Saudi Arabia, ahead of every other Southeast Asian nation simultaneously. These are not countries the world casually describes as developing. PwC's Global Infrastructure Outlook published July 11, 2026 recorded approximately $20 billion in total infrastructure spending in Malaysia in 2024, placing the country 10th in Asia-Pacific and 28th worldwide. 28th in the world for infrastructure investment. Most countries the world considers developed are not in that top 30. Malaysia's GDP per capita crossed $13,000 in 2024. The World Bank high-income threshold is $13,845. Malaysia is not at the finish line of the high-income transition. But it is close enough that the OECD published a 133-page economic survey on July 28, 2026 that described Malaysia as raising per capita incomes faster than many of its regional peers and projected GDP growth of 4.9% in 2026 and 5.0% in 2027. Those are not the numbers of a developing economy. They are the numbers of an economy that is growing at roughly double the rate of the United States, the United Kingdom, and Germany simultaneously. The developing country label comes from a moment in Malaysia's past. It is being applied to a country that has moved significantly beyond that moment. Every year the label remains without updating, the gap between the description and the reality widens. That is why the world is getting more wrong every year. Not because Malaysia changed dramatically overnight. Because it kept changing steadily while the label stayed still. Wrong thing number 2. Malaysia is unsafe. Malaysia's score on the 2025 Global Peace Index places it among the safest countries in Southeast Asia. Safer than Indonesia, the Philippines, and Thailand by objective measurement. In the 2026 Global Peace Index, Malaysia ranked 12th out of 163 nations. Ahead of the United States, which does not appear in the top 50. Ahead of France in the 40s. Ahead of the United Kingdom also in the 40s. Ahead of Australia in the upper 30s. The safety perception problem is one of the most persistent and most damaging mischaracterizations Malaysia carries internationally. It comes from a combination of specific incidents that received disproportionate international coverage, the MH370 disappearance in 2014 being the single most impactful, and from a general Western tendency to assume that countries outside the high-income club are inherently less safe than countries inside it. The data does not support that assumption. A person walking in Kuala Lumpur at night is statistically safer than a person walking in comparable areas of London, New York, Paris, or Sydney by the measures that the Global Peace Index and the Number Crime Index both track. The specific safety adaptation that daily life in KL requires, the motorcycle awareness, the bag positioning, is real and worth knowing about. But it is adaptation to a specific and largely preventable risk, not evidence of a dangerous country. The difference between what people fear about Malaysia's safety and what the data says about Malaysia's safety is one of the widest perception-reality gaps in the global travel and relocation community. Wrong thing number 3. Malaysia's infrastructure is behind the West. Commonly imagined as a giant, green, sweaty jungle, the word modern is sadly underused when it comes to Malaysia. That quote was published years ago and it remains accurate in 2026. The Kuala Lumpur MRT Putrajaya line is the second longest fully automated driverless metro line on Earth, behind only the Dubai Metro Red Line. It opened in 2023 using 21st century engineering, current generation signaling, platform screen doors at every station, and real-time crowd monitoring. It costs $11 a month for unlimited travel across the entire Klang Valley network. The London Underground runs on signaling technology designed in the 1930s. The New York subway costs $2.6 billion per mile to extend and carries a $62.1 billion state of good repair backlog. The infrastructure the world assumes is more advanced than Malaysia's is in many specific and measurable ways less advanced than what Malaysia built this decade. The ECRL opens in January 2027. 665 kilometers of standard-gauge double-track electrified railway connecting the South China Sea coast to the Klang Valley. The RTS link opens in January 2027. 4 kilometers of cross-border driverless rail connecting Malaysia to Singapore in 5 minutes with co-located immigration clearance. The Penang LRT Mushiara line is under construction with a 6-kilometer cross-sea rail alignment. These are not projects that a country with behind-the-West infrastructure produces. They are projects that a country building past the West produces. Wrong thing number 4. Malaysia's economy runs on palm oil and rubber. Palm oil and rubber are part of Malaysia's economy. They have been part of Malaysia's economy for over a century. And they now represent a declining share of an economy that has fundamentally restructured itself across 5 decades of deliberate industrial policy. Malaysia's electrical and electronics sector is projected to exceed RM800 billion in exports in 2026. Nearly $200 billion from a single industry in a single year. Services are now the main driver of the economy at 60% of GDP in 2024. Malaysia captured 32% of Southeast Asia's AI funding. 143 data center projects approved between 2021 and 2025 with combined investment of RM144.4 billion. Intel, Infineon, AMD, ARM, Google, Microsoft, and Nvidia all simultaneously committed to expanding Malaysian operations. The palm oil and rubber economy is the economy of 1970. The economy of 2026 is a semiconductor manufacturing hub, a data center corridor, an AI infrastructure destination, and an emerging chip design ecosystem. The world's picture of Malaysian economic activity is roughly 50 years out of date. Every year that picture is not updated, the gap between what the world thinks Malaysia produces and what Malaysia actually produces grows wider. Wrong thing number 5. Malaysia is just a cheap place to retire or travel. This one is the most personally frustrating for Malaysians who work in the country's technology, finance, and professional services sectors. Because it reduces a complex, multi-layered, rapidly evolving economy and society to a cost of living arbitrage play. And while the cost of living advantage is real and genuinely significant, Malaysia is 52 to 67% cheaper than comparable Western cities, Framing Malaysia exclusively through that lens misses everything that makes the cost of living advantage sustainable and meaningful. Malaysia has 19 universities in the QS World University Rankings 2025. Its private hospital sector includes JCI-accredited facilities that provide healthcare at an international standard that medical tourists from across Asia and from Western countries specifically travel to access. Its financial services sector manages Islamic finance instruments that are used by sovereign wealth funds, development banks, and institutional investors globally. Its professional services economy employs engineers, lawyers, accountants, architects, data scientists, and software developers who are competing for work in the global market, not just the regional one. Unemployment stood at 3% in 2025 with strong domestic labor market conditions supported by government civil service pay rises and private sector wage growth. Malaysia is not just a place where things are cheap. It is a place where things are good and also happen to cost significantly less than equivalent quality elsewhere. The distinction matters because cheap implies a trade-off in quality that the data does not support. The MRT that costs $11 a month is not a worse transit system than the underground that costs $5 per ride. It is a better one. Here is what intellectual honesty requires before this video ends. Because the world gets things wrong about Malaysia in both directions. The world underestimates Malaysia's economic development, its infrastructure quality, its safety record, and the sophistication of its industrial base. That underestimation is documented and widening every year. And the world also sometimes overestimates how fully Malaysia has resolved the structural challenges that sit alongside those achievements. The OECD noted that productivity growth has slowed and in recent years has fallen short of Malaysia's own targets. Regulatory complexity and skills shortages continue to constrain firm performance and innovation, particularly for smaller firms. Skill-related underemployment among university graduates sits at 35.2%. The racial policies that govern university admissions, public sector employment, and business ownership have been in place for over 50 years and continue to produce inequities that minority communities navigate daily. The online fraud crisis produced RM2.97 billion in losses in 2025, an 87% increase. Floods contributed to the displacement of about 139,000 people and an estimated RM312 million in damages to roads alone in the latter part of 2024. The honest picture of Malaysia in 2026 is a country that is genuinely more developed, more safe, more economically sophisticated, and more globally significant than most of the world's perception reflects. And it is also a country with real, documented, ongoing challenges that deserve acknowledgement alongside the achievements. The world gets Malaysia wrong primarily by freezing its picture at a moment in the past and applying that picture to a present that has moved significantly beyond it. Correcting that requires updating the picture, not replacing a flattering old picture with a flattering new one, but replacing an inaccurate old picture with an accurate current one. Which is what this channel exists to do. The searches that open this video are still being typed right now. Is Malaysia safe? Is Malaysia developed? Is Malaysia modern? And the people typing them are going to find information that in many cases was written in a different decade about a different version of this country. The IMD puts Malaysia 15th in global competitiveness, ahead of France and Australia. The OECD presents a peer-level economic assessment in Malaysia's own capital. The world's most powerful technology companies are simultaneously building their AI infrastructure in Malaysian soil. The ECRL and the RTS link open in January 2027. PwC ranks Malaysia 28th in the world for infrastructure investment. The world is getting Malaysia wrong. And because Malaysia keeps developing while the world's picture stays still, it is getting more wrong every year. Not less. More. The only question is how much longer it takes for the picture to catch up with the country. I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to correct someone's wrong picture of Malaysia? What did they get most wrong and what was the data that changed their mind? Drop it in the comments. One experience, one correction. And tell me, outdated or current, how does the world around you see Malaysia right now? Subscribe right now because Shifted Perspective is the channel that keeps updating the picture. I will see you in the next one.